So get this, podcast listeners. The first Olympic transgender is going to be in what sport? Just guess, podcast listeners. What sport do you think the first transgender would be? By that, I mean a man who is identifying as a woman or considers himself a woman. He's a biological man, no doubt. And he is going to actually compete in the Olympics. He's from New Zealand. What sport do you think it's going to compete in? It's going to be weightlifting. He's a weightlifter. She's a weightlifter. And here's the story. So, and why is this a story? Well, because we have men competing with men in the Olympics and women competing with women in the Olympics. But now, apparently, there isn't an individual category of transgenders competing with transgenders, which seems to me that would be a lot more reasonable than it would be to have a transgender competing man, I should say, competing with a woman. It's kind of hard to even talk about it because it's just so damn confusing. So this New Zealand weightlifter is going to become the first transgender athlete at the Olympic Games. And here's CNN reporting New Zealand weightlifter Laurel Hubbard is her name, is set to become the first transgender athlete to compete in the Olympic Games as she was selected for the national team on Monday. She will compete in the women's 87 kilogram category, according to a statement released by the New Zealand Olympic Committee that also announced the 4 other members of the weightlifting team. Hubbard is 43 years old. Qualified, that's pretty old. Qualified to be in the Olympics, Qualified for the rescheduled Tokyo Games in May after a rule change, you think, which effectively guaranteed her a spot in the super heavyweight category, Reuters reported at the time. This will be her first time at the Olympic Games, a remarkable comeback after a significant injury in 2018. So, podcast listeners, we have a 9-second clip. It's only 9 seconds. It's 9 seconds. It's really short. And this is Laurel Hubbard picking up a bunch of weight. I'm not really sure how much weight is there. It looks like a lot, right? So this is a guy, a biological man, demonstrating her ability to lift weights, and picks up the weights and does that. What is it called when you lift them up real fast and you push them up? There's a term for that.
Clean and jerk.
It's a clean and jerk.
Clean and jerk. Okay. So they clean and jerk and push up the weights in the air to demonstrate that you can lift them. And yet how long do they have to be in the air before is it like?
I think you just have to lock out your elbows.
I think the judge has to clear you.
Okay. Because these two guys are like big with weightlifting. And these two delegates are. So here's the thing. When Laurel Hubbard lifts the weights, it's like, oh! I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. This is a biological man, obviously. But when you hear her talk or grunt, you kind of know it's proof. We had that clip, and here it is. Nice. New Zealand, right? It's like nice. It's like, okay, go ahead.
Well, it seems like she really mastered the jerk part.
Yeah.
We should be thankful this is in weightlifting and not like...
She has lots of practice at jerking, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We should be thankful this is happening in weightlifting and not like women's beach volleyball, because those uniforms leave not much for the imagination. And
didn't take long before we went right off the road there.
You're right. Well, you're right, because Laura Hubbard is wearing spandex and it's black. Her spandex is black. Laura Hubbard is white from New Zealand. And it does naturally. It's only human nature. Let's face it. That when you see someone like they do the pull and jerk thing and they push the weights up, that you're looking, right? It's
right.
Like,
Yeah.
The
plumbing is right there for everybody to see. It's not in a cupboard. We see the plumbing, and that's the thing that I thought about with this is, if we all remember, Barry Bonds, and then when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were chasing the home run record, everybody was saying it. These guys are on steroids. Barry Bonds' forehead, as great of a hitter as he was, looked like a drive-in movie theater screen. It was getting huge. And the reason why the Olympics, Major League Baseball, NFL all ban performance-enhancing drugs is it is changing your biological makeup, and it's giving you an advantage. And this, whatever pronoun you want to use for this lifter, was a male from 18 to 35 when she, whatever, was really training as a male. And you have all that testosterone running through your body. So now this male or female has a huge biological advantage of every other female. And I've already seen a couple female weightlifters come out and say, this is not fair. We are not anti-transgender, but this is not fair to basically put a male into the same category as us. And some of these weightlifters, I mean, we laugh about the clean and jerk, and it's easy to make fun of, but people train their whole life to make it into the Olympics. You can't make it into a professional weightlifting and make money.
Not.
Everybody's trying to make the Olympics. And then all of a sudden they're going to change this pronoun of this male and say, nah, she's a female. There's just absolute biological facts that we all have to recognize. Males are different than females. It's not just the obvious plumbing we're looking at, but your biological makeup inside allows you to become bigger, stronger, faster as a male. Fair or unfair, it's just the case. And it's totally unfair to put this pronoun into Olympic lifting against a female who has basically sacrificed their life for a gold medal.
For a gold medal, right?
My question is, where is the feminists in this argument here? I thought they, the people on Democrats on the left, I thought they were the protectors of women. And here, this is, you have 10,000 years of data looking at them in the face, and they're willing to not side. We were talking earlier. You remember Florence Griffin Joyner from back in the
Flojo.
Flojo.
Flojo, yeah. Great athlete.
Back in 1988, she set the women's 100-meter track record at a 10.49. And that record stood for 33 years. There hasn't been a woman that come close to that record. Well, last year, the full track season, 2019, there were 76 high school boys that ran faster than that track.
That's right.
Unbelievable.
So, I mean, to sit there and look at the data, men and women are different. And this is the reason why their sports categories have always been separated. And this is like, I remember we had a amendment that we tried to push through in the General Assembly just to study this issue. And Democrats voted against it. Like, they don't even want to take a look at this.
Because there's no longer science in America in the Democrat Party.
Well, they're flat earthers.
They do not believe in science. They didn't believe in science during COVID, in terms of the pre-treatment once you got COVID, and in terms of pre-treating it before you were rushed to the hospital. God forbid you even talk about it now, because YouTube will take you off of the air. And they don't want to talk about science when it comes to transgenders, because it's like, okay, so it's one thing to argue over the fact that you should be able to, in a free society, identify however you want to, because it's your life. And if that's what you want to do, okay, fine. It's an entirely different thing to say, well, I was biologically born a guy, and now I want to go forth and compete against women because I know that I can, and I can probably do a better job. I mean, it's so obvious. I mean, how stupid are we as a society to think that this guy from New Zealand isn't gaming the system? Of course he's gaming the system.
Exactly. Most mathematicians will tell you, and this is science and math, you just can't refute this, that all human life, you're a 1 in 700 trillion chance. And that's between your dad's swimmers and your mom's special pool, let's call it. If you're mad about the way you were born, you had 6,999,999 other chances. You are what you are. You can't change that.
Yes.
You have to. I understand you might feel a different way, and feelings are fine, and you might want to identify as something else, but that does not change your biological makeup, and you can't then impose this on the Olympics or any other sport and say,
and the Olympics are going woke, right? The Olympics are going woke. And by the way, when the Olympics go woke, Matt, you know what that means? It means that people aren't going to care to watch it anymore. And they're not going to care to watch it anymore because the results aren't real.
Well, the results aren't real.
They're not reliable.
Look at it as from an athletic standpoint. This guy is 43 years old. He's way past his prime performance.
Yes.
And he's going to dominate in a sport because, well, he's competing against women. It's just not right. And you see this happening from Little League up through high school and in NCAA. And I really applaud the states that had the courage to go ahead and ban this and protect our female athletes, because it's simply just not fair.
What's that locker room like? You go afterwards? All right, everybody shower. Whoa, a second, something's not right here.
Well, it's like every father's dream, and it is, podcast listeners, it's every father's dream that you have a son and that your son becomes like some sort of professional athlete. It is. But I mean, is this what's going to happen now in modern America and apparently modern New Zealand as well, which is, the father has a son. The son's not really that athletic or semi-athletic, but never going to really make it. So it's like, I've got an idea. You're going to be a girl now, and we're going to have you compete in the girl sports, and that's how I'm going to be really proud.
Well, at this point, why have girls in male sports? Why not just have the sport?
Yeah, right. In which case, there wouldn't be girls in sports, right? Or if there would be, then they would be sitting on the bench.
Right, because you never see it go from a female playing into a male sport. I mean, there's one-off circumstances where you had some, female athletes, kickers and stuff in college football, but you've never seen it to that level where female soccer players said, I'm going to go try out the men's team.
Right. So we might as well just get rid of Title IX and just go with Title, I don't know.
Title 3.
Title, I don't know. You can play whatever you want.
Title 10, I don't know. So get this, U.S. trans Olympic athlete. Now we have another trans Olympic athlete in the United States that says, my goal is to win the Olympics so I can burn a United States flag on the podium when I win. So a transgender Olympic, according to the Daily Wire, athlete that qualified as an alternate, so thankfully this transgender is an alternate, to represent the United States at this year's Summer Olympics, said that her goal was to win and then burn the American flag at the Olympic podium. BMX freestyle rider Chelsea Wolfe wrote in a Facebook post, unearthed by Fox News, my goal is to win the Olympics so I can burn the flag. And it just goes on and on and on. So here's someone who obviously really isn't interested in winning for the right reasons, which is interesting, right? Because it was a guy, it's a biological guy, realizes they can't win as a guy, so then identifies as a woman, goes into the Olympics, and then says, well, that's just not enough for me to really ruin sports for men and women. I also want to burn the flag. I want to prove a point because I'm really woke.
Sounds like a very troubled individual with a mental disease, to tell you the truth, that's very, very unhappy. And they want to promote that unhappiness on everybody else.
They do. They do. They want to promote the happiness. They're just not, they're angry, and who knows, maybe Coca-Cola would pick her up if she actually won, right? It's like, yeah, see, we're Coke and we're really woke.
Let's think about that. How many other sponsorship could she possibly qualify for? You burning the American flag. I mean, that has Nike written all over it.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of the brands that definitely wouldn't support, let's say, let's just say the transgender athlete won, like this guy from New Zealand, who is a biological man, but competing as a woman as a weightlifter. And so, would I don't know, Kotex support her or one of those places? Because,
I didn't know where you were going with that.
Probably not. Probably not. What are they going to say?
To the max, maxi pad. I don't know.
Kotex, even for weightlifters.